And welcome you back to On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel. We have a special guest with us. He is the head football coach of the Region 6B champion Colonial Forge Eagles. What a performance they put on last Friday, defeating Patriot on the road. And they're, in many ways, Colonial Forge, a program that has had a lot of success over the years. But this year's Cinderella, the number 6 seed going into the state playoffs. They win road playoff games over the likes of Stafford and North Stafford, avenging regular season losses to both of them, Commonwealth District rivals, and then beating Patriot 42-14 to set up another showdown with Oscar Smith in the state playoffs. We say hello and congrats to Coach John Brown. Coach, how you been? It's December and you're playing football, so you got to feel pretty good.
I do feel pretty good. I remember Richard Morgan we were down there one year, and he said, walked up to him and said hello, and he said, it's, if we're both here right now, we've had a good year. So I've never forgot that he said that, and he's right. You get this far, and it's been a good year. We want to, just thankful to be this far. That's for sure.
For sure. We're going to have some of the stat leaders scroll across our ticker for those that are unfamiliar with the football there in the 540 and what you guys play at Colonial Forge. I've tweeted this year during my Hats Hits and have talked about it a little bit on our On the Hash with Hatfield program that I don't know if it's the best brand of football statewide, but I feel like y'all have had the most exciting games this year with your district and the teams you played down to the wire. Some have been good for you. Some have not been. The games with Stafford and with Brook Point and Riverbend and all these different teams, North Stafford, have gone down the wire. Even your first game of the year, Coach, with Woodbridge was a 22-21.
It was tight. Yeah, they went for 2 right at the end, and we had to come up with a big stop. So we were right out of the gate.
Has that helped your kids, though, to be in all those situations that it's taken some of the pressure off, that you were a 6 seed, not much expected, and you knew what kind of football team you had. You just had to kind of mesh it, make it all kind of mold together. How do you kind of summarize where you are at this point?
I think that kind of stuff, especially right out of the gate, it definitely helps. You've got to dig down and find your way through. They did a great job at Woodbridge this year. They really came a long way. And I talked to the coach afterward, and he said, "No guts, no glory." So those types of things do shape you. We got off to a pretty fast start. We played Patriot there in I believe it was the 4th game of the year. And they certainly were. Them and Battlefield were definitely the top 2 teams in our region and in our area this year. So that early game with Woodbridge really helped us. We had to kind of dig down and find something. We were down at halftime to Patriot, and came out on top against them, made some plays in the second half, and were able to come through. And then we ran into Stafford. Stafford had a really dynamic backfield. They had Michael Creamer, who's had a bunch of offers. I'm not sure, he's signed recently. I'm not can't remember where he went. And then their quarterback was super dynamic. So we lost to them in the last 11 seconds. And then we're up and down. Riverbend had a really good team this year, and very physical, and came together at the right time. They played in the regional championship, and we got beat by them. And at that point in the year, we're pretty banged up. We're just starting to get back to where we're pretty healthy again. And this late in the playoffs is pretty crazy. It's been kind of an endurance test. We lost to North Stafford in the last game. They have really super dynamic athletes, well coached. And then we regrouped, and our kids have a lot of pride, and I was super proud of them. And we went over to Stafford. It was our first road game in the playoffs, and we're able to we got better on defense is really truthfully what happened, and just kind of started getting healthy at the right time, and played North Stafford the next week, and in the second round of the playoffs, and again, just put together a good defensive game and did enough on offense in that game to get through, and then played in the regional championship last week against Patriot. So we had a good game, and again, our kids resilient and finding ways to win, and putting together a stretch of good games and really working to get to that point. So I'm proud of where we're at right now.
Yeah, pretty fun to watch. I got a chance to check out your game, soup to nuts, against Patriot in the region finals, and ultra impressed with what your kids did all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. And by the way, that Creamer kid is going to Richmond, running back for Stafford.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
Where he's headed. So I want to get to, before we get to some of your key guys, and I love, by the way, Jake Mangano has been one of my favorite defensive linemen to watch, or two-way linemen to watch all year long. And we know about his dad, his coaching pedigree. Your dad's got a coaching pedigree, certainly helping you out with scheming and game planning. A Hall of Famer in Bill Brown, who you took over for as head coach in 2008. Just tell us about this journey at Colonial Forge. You guys have been knocking on the door, and you have some history with Oscar Smith, which we'll get to in a little bit. But to be doing it again and having this run and just being a win away from a state championship, I know it's the ultimate dream for you guys. And he's got a couple of rings in his history, and you're trying to get one yourself.
That's right. We started there in 2007, I believe, and then we flip-flopped. He was the head coach, and we flip-flopped roles. Probably what year was it? 2018. So I was coach the offense, just did whatever. I had been a head coach up in Prince William County for 2 years, actually at Freedom. I was the first head coach at Freedom High School. And before that, as you mentioned, we were at Hilton together. So, it's been really, really, really fun working with him and learning from him. When he retired and became a principal, I started working with Coach Sorrentino. He was the next coach. So, it's been a very, very good journey for me, and learning from two good coaches and getting to work with my father. Not too many people get to say that, especially, when you get as much gray hair as we both have. So, his insight and different things that he's done in his career, that I get to ask about. Not only is he, a mentor, but he's also my dad. So, it's not too often that he doesn't tell the truth, of course, and will tell me when I'm right and most certainly tell me when I'm wrong. But here recently, in very recent history post-pandemic, we struggled quite a bit. We were now, struggle quite a bit is relative. But we struggled against, and right coming out of the pandemic, that first full year, I think we were 4-6 and we made the playoffs. The next year we were 6-6 and we actually played Battlefield in the first round of the playoffs, and they were undefeated at the time. But we had played Highland Springs and Stonebridge and had a really tough schedule. So our kids believed that, we had played some of the best top teams in the state. And we were able to, to punch through there. So we kind of righted the ship last year, played Hayfield. And then, this year we've, like you said, we had some struggles early, got to where we're at now. We, Oscar Smith is like they usually are, they're waiting, at this end. So they're, yes, absolutely. We want to win the state championship. We know yearly when we go into the weight room, that Oscar Smith, there's a good chance that we're going to be playing, a team, either Oscar Smith, a team like Oscar Smith, whether it's Highland Springs or Manchester. And that's, kind of who we try to build to beat, if you will.
Yeah, and you've had some epic battles with them. I know they're 5-0 all time. That double overtime game in 2017, 2016 final play, 2019 was a 2-point deficit. But you mentioned obviously your dad's pedigree, Coach Sorrentino, Coach Mangano, all the brain power you guys all have there at Colonial Forge. For you guys to look at this team this year, what do you think is the separating factors? Because it feels like you're pretty solid in every phase. You don't have that one signature 4 or 5-star recruit, but it feels like you've gotten better and better each week, and you're peaking at the right time, which sometimes a championship team may do. This might not be the most talented team you've had at Forge, but in a lot of ways, you're going in with, I don't know if house money is the right phrase, but you're going in loosey-goosey, and you feel like this group is just enjoying the ride. Is that a fair way to characterize it?
I think that is a good way to put it. We take a lot of pride, in what we do. And, you mentioned Jake and Coach Mangano, and, they're, Jake is extremely, is a very good leader. You know what I mean? And he is extremely into football. And you have to be that way to live in that house with Joe. And they both, do a great job for us. Joe is a very, very good football coach. And as you mentioned, he was a great head football coach at North Stafford, and he was at Garfield previous to that. But, to answer your question, It's kind of like you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together as you go. And I think this year, more than any year, we've done that. We've kind of tried to just keep figuring out what's the best scenario for us. What's the best case that we can, put on offense, defense, and as you mentioned, special teams, and how's that puzzle come together. And try to peak at the right time. I have a good friend of mine that's a cross country coach, and he's older. He's been around a long time. He said we want to be great when the leaves start to fall, and that stuck with me. I talked to him about that in August, and here the leaves are starting to fall, and we're starting to get pretty good. So, or get better, if you will, and peak at the right time. None of it has been extremely easy this season for us, I wouldn't say. But just trying to put those pieces together and have the kids, buy in each week and give great effort. I'm super proud of that.
Let's look at your offensive personnel that have helped you here. We talked about Jake, what a 4C is, two-way factor in the trenches. But Brock Brimhall, your quarterback, running that RPO really well for you, over 2,300 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, also has a good amount of rushing yards. Josiah Bryson, who I believe is going to St. Francis,
That's right.
as it was announced on Wednesday, rather. He's going to be a factor for you in the ground game, has been all year long. And then Tayshawn Jones at receiver, he really caught my eye these last few games, Coach. It feels like he's starting to play his best football and become that game changer. And he might have been from the start for you, but it feels like he's taken his game up another peg. And what do you see offensively that you guys can hang your hat on as you try to keep this thing going?
We have to, in this part of the year, you have to be able to run the football. I mean, Oscar Smith does that exact same thing. They run the ball extremely well. If you can't run the ball well, especially at this point in the season, I'm talking about championship, not necessarily in cold weather, but in a championship, time frame or a championship part of the year. And if you can't stop the run, you're not going to get this far. So, I think most teams, and I don't want to speak for anybody, any other coach or anything like that, but it sure does seem like, even the great teams that have played in years past, Highland Springs and, Oscar Smith in years past, and even us and, Freedom here recently, everybody can run the football. That's where I think you have to be great, and you have to be great stopping the run. If you can do those two things and play, pretty good special teams, and throw the ball some effectively, then you have a good chance in these types of games. At least you give yourself a good chance, if you will, or give, this type of, these types of games this deep in the year, you do have to have kids that are able to step up and make plays. And those kids that you mentioned for us, you hit it on the head. They have stepped it up and have done a good job. And, football is important to all those kids too. They had a good year in the weight room, and, our team leaders and things of that sort. So we kind of expect them to step up. That's what we've talked about, and I think probably other programs do too. You got to have those playmakers that you count on step up and at this time of year and in these types of games.
No doubt about it. A few more minutes here with John Brown, the head football coach of the Region 6B champion Colonial Forge Eagles, who will be in Chesapeake on Saturday to take on the Region 6A champion Oscar Smith Tigers. Winner moves on to James Madison University for the Class 6 championship on December the 14th. James Madison, the site for that, as the winner of Forge. Smith will take on the winner of the game between Madison and Lake Braddock. It's On the Hash with Hatfield on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Coach, another unsung hero that probably haven't hit on yet is a freshman. I think he is Jerion Majid. He had a couple scores. I think he had a pick in the game on Friday.
Yep.
Pretty impressive to see a ninth grader just step up in those moments too for you.
He's a different bird now. He's got the whatever it is, the it factor that he can step in and make, big time plays for us. And I think he would be probably doing it for anybody. He has gotten better each week. He really asked great questions. He just turned 15 years old yesterday. So, he's a pretty impressive kid. He's pretty impressive to be around. And then to watch him play and to watch him to continue to get better each week has been a lot of fun. I'm glad I get to coach him. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And the last couple ones for you here. Defensively, when you see Oscar Smith on film, you see the firepower. It goes back to the days of Rich Morgan and the late, great Bill D. Scott Johnson, and now Chris Scott, what they have. The backs, the receivers, the junior and Travis Johnson, who's a game changer, the sophomore Triggerman and Lonnie Andrews, who's quite good. I mean, you talked about being able to run the ball and stop the run. Is there anything early in the game that you feel like can set the tone for you and allow you to kind of settle in? Is that important to start the game well, or is a lot of things going to be done in terms of adjustment-wise after the first series or two halftime? What's your view of it and your coaching staff's view of it as you go into this matchup?
I think it's both. I mean, I think you're going to have to make adjustments. You know what I mean? They're going to throw stuff at us, I believe, or I think any team in this situation, that we're both in and this late in the season, you've got to be able to make adjustments. They get off the ball really well. They have a lot of impressive skill players. There is absolutely no doubt about that, as they have, every year that we've played them. But I think the thing that sets them apart is how good they are in the box defensively. Their skill kids in the back end of their defense is very, very, very good. But their box players are also, they get to the ball so well. It's almost like a teach tape. Up front, their offensive line gets off the ball, extremely well. They're fun to watch, and they're well coached. So all that kind of stuff, fits really well together to make a great team. And they certainly are. So, yeah, we're going to have to match what they do. We're going to have to come down there with be in the right, frame of mind, to come out there and play ball. I know they're going to do that. We know how, when you walk in there and they start to come through that tiger cage, you better have your mouthpiece in and your chin strap buckled. We get that. We know that for sure.
Sure. Different atmosphere, no doubt about it. Should be a fun one on Saturday. We'll get
Fun
you on this
atmosphere.
coach.
They do a great job. I mean, it really is. I would love to play them, at Colonial Forge and not have to come down there to Chesapeake, but roads lead there. You know what I mean? You get this late in the season, you like I said, we build to play that game that they do. It's a good atmosphere. It's a fun place to play for sure.
Yeah, this is the sixth encounter, and 5 of them being at Beard DeLong Easley Field in Chesapeake. Lastly, Coach, and thank you for coming on. Do you reference at all those previous meetings, or is that something that doesn't even get brought up, shown, talked about? Because some of these kids weren't even – some of them may not have been – well, they're born, but not even playing football that stage. Yeah. They don't care about it. How do you approach that and just the magnitude of what's at stake? Because it would be historic if you were to knock them off and play in your first state championship as a program.
Sure. It's – like I said, I think I've said earlier to somebody that it's the state semifinals. So no matter who it is, you want to come down or wherever the game's at and put your best foot forward. I absolutely reference them. I grew up on the sidelines. I've been on the sidelines since I was 7 years old, believe it or not, being a water boy. So, those types of things stick with me, playing Andrew Brown and seeing Josh Sweat standing right next to Andrew Brown and the great running backs and quarterbacks that they've had there, to Cam Kelly, to, all the kids that they've had. And you can just go on, but, I've been a part of it, you know what I mean? And I've seen it. And I want our kids to understand that, we've been there, we've been down there. There is a mystique to going down and playing Oscar Smith. But once you get in those white lines and you start to play football, all that kind of stuff goes away, and you've got to step up and make plays like we talked about right at the beginning. You've got to, put your best foot forward. Like I said, you've got to strap it on, put your mouthpiece in, and let's get going.
2:00 coming up on Saturday, the Classic State Semifinals with the Oscar Smith Tigers unbeaten on the year, taking on the Region 6B champion Colonial Forge Eagles. Winner moves on to Harrisonburg and JMU for the state finals. Coach John Brown, thank you so much. All the best, and we'll talk again soon.
Matt, it's good to see you, man. If I see you, it means we've done something this year. So I'm glad to see you.
Appreciate the compliment. All the best to you and your squad. And we'll take a time out. We've got more to come on this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. Stay tuned. Let's now hear a word from some of the sponsors that make it possible. We'll be back in just a bit.